Hello, good evening and welcome back. This is JACKOCAR. You're watching the Kia series. It is season 4 here and we are round 2. And we're over to La Castellet, Paul Ricard in France. My name is Gareth Hall, joining you in the commentary box for this one. And we are in store for what is set to be another blistering race around here. We've had some pretty good ones in the past around France, and in fact we've not had one for a while, and I will get onto that in a very short minute. However, just to get you all started, we welcome you all to JACKOCAR, and we hope you're all having a very good week indeed. You enjoyed your extra day off, making it a little bit of a long weekend yesterday, and you're back ready for some racing today. And hopefully I'll be bringing you all of the action up and down this 16 car grid from P1 to P16. Points are on offer for everyone in this hybrid league between NASCAR and F1. The rules we will explain as we go on for any of you that are new to the stream. However, it will be everyone contesting this biggest car park in F1, and you can see it there on the screen. The blue, the red and the grey lines all indicating the different gradient of abrasiveness on the circuit. But it is Paul Ricard in the south of France. It's a 15 corner circuit, 6 to the left and 9 to the right. It's a 5.8 kilometre circuit, 3.63 miles long. It was used as a tyre test track. There we go, there's a tongue twister for you all. And the different levels of abrasiveness, as you say, as you see there, with the blue being least to the grey being the most. And plenty of the cars here will find themselves perhaps getting a few of the corners wrong. It's very easy to go offline here, very easy to get your braking points wrong. Will we see some incidents? I would imagine we probably will, but good evening to everyone coming in, joining us in the stream tonight. Good to see you. Good to see you, Thomas. And Corey's in the chat as well. Good to see you, Corey. Hopefully you've got yourself a little bit calmer after last week's testy cup race. Make sure to go back and check that one out if you haven't already, as we saw a bit of a chaotic start to the Silverstone race in Cup, which of course you can catch every Thursday evening with Jacko and Owen in the commentary box there. However, for these guys in the Kia, the second tier JACKOCAR, they will be navigating their way around 27 laps, full throttle around here, around about 58 to 60% of the lap time. You've got 48 gear changes per lap on average, and that ranks around about 1,242 over the race distance. And this one that we're racing on is one of a potential 167 different layouts, and well, wouldn't we all like to see a slightly different one? Of course, this is probably the last time we're going to see it for a while, which I don't think I'm going to miss it. I'd like to know if you think you're going to, but not on the calendar. F1 in 2023, and of course that probably means this will be the last time we see it in JACKOCAR. Expecting top speeds to be around about 325 kilometers an hour. That's about 202 miles an hour, which you'll find down the back straight towards the scene curve, down that Mistral straight, and of course along the main straight as well, where you can find yourself picking up some pretty good speed going into a very tricky off camber turn 1 and turn 2. Toffee corner, probably turn 10 at scene, arguably the most famous on the circuit, and we're just waiting for Lesty. Looks as though he's having an issue with loading into the lobby as well, so we will just wait for everyone to get in. There we go. Unfortunately, Leslie dropping out of this one. Hopefully we'll be able to rejoin in quali. Now, do we see overcast conditions here in France? And we do often see the conditions playing into effect when it comes to qualifying and the race here. You do often find yourself having quite wet races on occasions, and it looks as though people leaving the session. We may have a lobby reset, so you're going to have to bear with me. And it is due to be, thank you very much for Thomas, who's in the garage. He is saying that it's going to be a wet race. So just as I was saying, the conditions tend to play a part here. It is set to be a wet race. Now, for those, whilst we wait for confirmation on if people can get back into the lobby, we know that we've got a few people, Vitinho, who is rejoining us, and equally, I believe that was Lesty. There you go, Lesty back in, which is great to see. But it is very much, and I've got it written down because I couldn't remember it off the top of my head, Bienvenido de volta a piloto brasileiro Vitinho, which I believe is welcome back to our Brazilian driver, Vitinho, and he welcomes himself back into the Kia lobby, the one-time race winner here in Kia, and it's great to have him back on the grid. So you can see plenty of time remaining in qualifying. Of course, these guys don't go out straight away. It is one-shot qualifying here in JACKOCAR. So everyone will go out, have a one warm-up lap, and then they will get one opportunity at setting a flying lap. They've all been allocated based off championship standings. So the last one to go out will be last week's shock winner, Jess. Of course, Jess came in 95. Jess, of course, her first ever league race win, and wasn't it a doozy? It was a fantastic race. Chaos all down the field throughout the entire race. A potential 10 people out of the, I believe, 15 that raced could have won that race, and it shows you just how close and tightly fought this competition is going to be all the way through the rest of the season. I imagine just trying to get everything in order for you guys, but there we go. We will have plenty of people out on circuit. Don't worry, they will be coming. It will be first up. It will be Virginia, who will be coming out in the 14-minute mark. So about 1 minute and 40 seconds to go before we see some on-track action. So that gives me just about enough time to run you through what happened last week. Well, last week we were, of course, starting off our season in Australia. And it was Jess Gamer that took the win. She went from 7th to 1st, so a fantastic first ever win there for her. Jamie Bromley, otherwise known as Splinter, he gave up the win on the line, 2nd to 2nd for him, and it was Kingan who went from 9th to 3rd to round out the podium, even with a 5-second penalty applied post-race by the stewards, held on to a podium. Leslie de Twig going from 10th to 4th to get a decent debut here in Kia, with Sully going from 5th to 5th, and Sully, another one that will be looking for a decent result, wanting his first ever race win. Newgarden on his Joker, it looked as though it could have come back to him and he could have picked up a first win ever here in JACKOCAR, but didn't quite work out for that driver on his Joker. Jacko went from 8th to 7th. Yuri went from 11th to 8th, and unfortunately it was Jake Warrior who was the big loser out of everyone, from first pole position all the way down to 9th. We had retirements for Bazza, OKK, Thomas Nevitt, Quinn, Kaya and Rageman. Well, what was the last time that we were here in France? Well, it was almost an entire calendar year ago. It was September the 28th, 2021. So 358 days ago. It was season 2. It was round 4. Camo Babbo took the win ahead of Splinter and of Yuri. And we've got a car out on circuit, which should be Virginia, I believe. We will see in a second, as we've got... No, it's going to be Jacko that's coming out first. So Jacko, of course, league owner himself, out in his Mercedes-inspired livery, as he is out there first. He's another one that possibly could have been a race winner last week, and I'm sure will be pretty disappointed that he wasn't. And that's not how you start your session, Mr. Ricketts, indeed, as he sets to warm up the tyres a little bit quicker than he was expecting to. But well, we've got a dry session here for qualifying, so expect to be around about the 131s, 132s for pole position. If it was the wets / the inters, we'd expect them to be at about the 141, so about 10 seconds slower. So expect these guys to be running around about the 31s, 32s, 33s. However, it will be Jacko, the one that will be going out first. Whilst Jacko just gets himself set up for his flying lap, I will quickly mention what is going on a little bit further down the order, and that is with Thomas Nevitt. And Thomas will be running at the 9-minute and 30 mark, and Thomas this season is raising money for charity and doing it in a spectacular way, being very, very generous indeed. He's raising money for the Beeston Cancer Charity west of Scotland. Every racing lap completed, he'll be donating £5 to charity. If he reaches the checker flag, the donation would be doubled, and if he's scored a podium, the donation will be tripled. So everyone, I'm sure, will be behind Thomas going for it. He almost got a race win last week. He was absolutely mega in the wet, and we'll see if he can do it today. But on board here with Jacko's, he is the first one out on circuit, making his way around this Le Castellet circuit in through sector 1. Very easy to get it wrong. You want to make sure you're just running over these curbs ever so slightly. You can see the raised yellow curbs on the outside of every corner. Very easy to unsettle the car, and this is a corner that can catch out some drivers. A quick left-hander, if you've got enough downforce, you can get it to plant to the floor. If not, you can find the back end switching directions with you as you blast down the Mistral Straight. Unfortunately, they've added a chicane right in the middle of it, so we're going to break down for the chicane at around about the 100-metre mark and then pull it in, and Jacko is going to go for a dance and a lovely almost 100 and about a 270-degree pirouette there, and that means that his qualifying is going to be massively compromised by that, but well, it doesn't mean it is all over. We've seen plenty of people win from the back before in JACKOCAR, and Jacko's just got to make sure he finishes his lap. You can't come into the box even though you've invalidated, as he just does there, just to make sure, and those tyres do not want to play ball at all, and Jacko is going to be starting from the back of this one, so we will find out who is next. It's going to be Leroy, so Leroy, the second of the Hasslagers, and of course his brother Yuri will be going out a little bit later in this session as well, so Leroy, who missed the first round of the season, back in for round 2. We'll see what he can do. A very, very quick driver on his day, one that I've had a couple of very interesting battles with at all. I recall back to Brazil in the Cup Series last season was a particularly fun one I've had with him, and well, he's hoping to go and put it on pole position, and it's something that he's a bit of a one-lap specialist, is Leroy. Does very nicely in qualifying, as he's going to break down towards the chicane in the second sector, using the curb as Vicinio goes and does a 1:33.722, so we missed Vicinio's lap, but there we go, it's a 33.7, so I am expecting to see that come down quite considerably. I believe we saw the Cup drivers do this, no, I stand corrected, it was VSL, so a bit of a sister league to these guys. They ran in their league and it was around about the 1:31 to 1:32, so expecting those times to come down around about that mark. That's what we saw the likes of Yuri and some of the others involved in this league doing in that one. So what can Leroy do as he goes a little bit off of apex there? It's very, very difficult. This is probably the weakest part of the circuit for myself, the last 3 corners, but what can Leroy do? Now we go, full beans down to the line. It's going to be a 31. It's just a 32. It's 31.30. So the track will start to grip up, and you'll start to see those going a little bit quicker. And hopefully, if the game allows me to scroll, there we go. We will do get a bit of a scroll. We'll go down to Indecisive, who's making his way around Scene Corner now. So Indecisive with is that it's just a stock livery from Indecisive, or may not be, so but yeah, Indecisive running the white, red and black livery there as he makes his way in through the tricky third sector. And what can he do as he is looking and tracking to be a decent time. As welcome to everyone joining the stream. You're joining myself, Gareth Hall, in the commentary box here for the JACKOCAR Kia Series second round of the season. It is the second tier of JACKOCAR, of course. Cup Series on a Thursday night with Jacko and Owen. Indecisive does a 1:34.1, putting himself last of the current runners, and we'll go on board now with Rageman, who is on his flying lap as well. So Rageman making his way into Scene Corner. We seem to catch them at around about the same time, which is quite nice. We get to see everyone making their way in towards the third sector. As you can see, it's almost like the flip reverse of Indecisive's livery as Rageman, as he makes his way in towards the left-hander. Very easy to get this one wrong. Get on that curb and you can turn the car around. Now it's all about holding it. A lot of lateral movement in the car as it wants to switch on you as you pull in through the downforce heavy sections of the last 2 corners, and he's going to open up the DRS in just a few seconds. There we go, the rear flap in that window opens, and he's going to send it down to the line. It's at 1:32.106, and that takes pole position off of Leroy by 24 thousandths of a second. And next up, I believe we do have Kaya, who's invalidated, so we'll go on board with Quinn, who's about to start his lap. And Quinn running a new livery for this week. He's decided that last week's was a little bit of a bad luck omen for him, so he's decided to go for a new one, and oh, that's a nice one indeed. He's got a nice little shark tooth decal on the front, and of course running the Team Speed sort of sky blue livery on the top as well, so very nice indeed as he's gone purple in the first sector. Of course you never know if that is the case or not, but we will see if he tracks well on the start of this one as he's making his way through the second sector, now up the Mistral Straight in towards the chicane, and Quinn looking as though it's pretty tidy so far. One of 2 DRS zones on the lap. He's making his way around, and you exit the chicane, and now you start to make your way down towards Scene Corner. And we welcome everyone watching, and you are watching qualifying for the Kia series here at JACKOCAR. I'd love it if you could all drop a like on the video. It really does help out JACKOCAR. If you do press like, it helps get us promoted out to more people that are watching YouTube casually, and if they're watching any more F1 content, the more likes, the more chance you will see our videos being promoted. And of course, if you're not subscribed already, press the big red button, do all the good stuff you do on the social share, and of course make sure if you want to get involved in JACKOCAR, go to Twitter at JACKOCAR, and Mr. Jack Ricketts himself will be happy to answer any of your questions. My name is Gareth Hall. In the commentary box you can find me on Twitter at GT2_driving, as Quinn does a 31.991. First one into the 31s, he puts himself on provisional pole position. Kaya is invalidated, we know that already, so we'll go on board with Bazza in a lovely purple livery for Bazza, and that's a nice gradient. Do like that one from Bazza. I was a big fan of OKK's last week, and I think Bazza's at the moment is currently taking the best livery so far. The nice grade. Everyone likes a good gradient. I think that's what it is. What I was going to do is, whilst we've got the guys circulating, and I will try and make sure I'm on board with everyone as they're making out their way out there, is... So last week, if you're all watching, you noticed that we had a pretty mixed up race. We had a mixed up grid, we had a mixed up race, people invalidating all over the place. So what we're going to do this time around is I've actually, and you'll have to bear with me because I don't have my OBS working currently, so you're going to have to trust me with what I'm saying as Bazza makes his way into the final corner. It was a bit of a roulette wheel. I said it was a bit of Russian roulette last week, and so what we're going to do this week is I've employed the handy use, as Bazza does a 34-1, handy use of a roulette wheel that's going to tell me who's going to win this race, because pretty much that's the only way to tell, because there was no way of knowing at the start of last week, and even probably about 2/3 into the race, who was going to win as Jake makes his way into the into Scene Corner. So I'm going to spin the wheel and I'll let you know where it's going to drop, as I've got everyone's name written on it. So tonight we've got, as it stops, a race win that looks like it's been predicted for Thomas Nevitt. So the universe thinks that is Thomas that's going to pick up a first win, and you know what? I'm not going to bet against it because he was absolutely mega last week. The man that's raising money for charity, of course, Beats and Cancer Charity in the west of Scotland. Make sure you go check him out, and of course help Thomas if you want to help donate. He is going to be out in a bit. Jake, however, 31.665, takes pole position by 0.3 of a second. Fantastic lap there from Jake. He'll be very, very happy with that one indeed. What can Yuri do about it? And Yuri running the, I believe that's the Dutch colours. I'm pretty sure he'll tell me otherwise. In the with the livery of his tonight. He's got a different livery here and different livery to Cup, but Yuri now making his way into the third sector, and what can he do? Can he challenge the 31.6 that's just been set and laid down by JW Combs, the man that took pole position last week out? He's going to be looking at getting himself perhaps around about that mark, if not quicker, with Quinn 0.3 of a second. So there's a big gap to slot in if you see Yuri doesn't have the pace, but it's currently tracking to be a pretty decent time of 25 coming out the final corner. And what's he going to do is he makes the run up to the line. This is going to be a good time. It's going to be a 31 to no, it's not a 32.4. What happened in the last sector there, Yuri? It was a 32.4, puts him in 5th position as Bazza retires from the session, as you should do. When these guys have finished, they should all go to the pit lane and retire. Of course, if you're new to JACKOCAR, it is a pretty much a hot shot. It's a one-shot quali for everyone, as they get one lap to go out, one lap to set their lap, and of course one lap to come back in. There is no second lap here, as that looks like Colton Herter out on the circuit, if I'm not mistaken, in the Gamebridge Speed Newgarden look, but we'll see what Newgarden can do. And Matt, another one that's looking out for his first win here in JACKOCAR. He's missed out by, well, 2 wins, he's missed out by less than half a second. So what can he do? It's going to be a 32, it's a 33-1, so it's a 33-1 there for Newgarden, puts himself just behind Yuri. We now go down to Sully, and Sully, another one that's looking for his first win in JACKOCAR. And it's, like I said, it really can go anywhere. Kia is going to be it's going to be hard to deal with this season because I'm not going to be able to call it. You're not going to be able to call it. We're basically going to have to wait until the end of the race to find out who and where the race win is going. But Sonny, it looks as though it's tracking to be a 32. It's a 32.937. He puts himself in 6th position, which is making Jake's time look better and better every single time we look at it, because that 31.6, I thought that the times would be around about the 31, so that's put him quite nicely in that window. But 0.3 of a second to Quinn, and that's going to have caught the attention of pretty much everyone else on the grid. What can Lesty do as he's making his way around as well? So Lesty, who had a pretty solid debut, you've got to think, in last week in Australia, picked up 4th place. There was a little bit erratic with the handling there. That was going to have cost him a couple of tenths of a second perhaps, as he makes his way into the final corner. Gets a little bit too heavy onto the curb. That will compromise his exit speed, but up to the line it's going to be about 32, 33, 33.1. He puts himself into 8th place on the grid, and that leaves only one final person out. Oh no, hold on, no it doesn't. It leaves 2 people. I missed them down at the bottom. We've got Kingan, Isaac, and we've got Jamie Bronley, Splinter. So we'll see what Kingan's doing. Of course, King finished in 3rd place, race winner here before in Kia, and Kingan looking for another one. He's usually a pretty solid driver. You can often see him running in the top 5 of most races. So what do we see from the Swede as he makes his way around the final 2 corners and hugs the apex, runs over the apex there, so takes a slightly different line, uses the inside curb instead of the outside curb, and now DRS activated, and he's going to send him down to the line. It's a 32.5, so good lap there from Kingham. Puts himself in that it's going to be midfield pack, it seems, and we're going to go down to Jamie Bromley himself, Mr. Splinter, as he in that what is always the pink and the orange livery from him. He's going to come into the final corner, and what can Splinter do? A championship contender 2 seasons ago with myself and Yuri, who were then eventually lost out to Niels, but Splinter, an absolute master on his day, a 31.7, puts himself just behind Jake, and the man that finished 2nd here just 2 seasons ago, looking as though he's going to put himself in the chance for a victory. Now, last week's shock winner, the one that everyone was happy to see pick up her first ever victory, the first ever female league race winner that I believe I've seen in quite a while. Only a few others I believe I've seen ever. But we've got Jess Gamer 95 making her way around the final few corners. What can she do? She's already progressed to the playoffs. So, of course, NASCAR and F1 hybrid here. So once you win during the regular season, you automatically progress to the playoffs. You don't even need to race again if you don't want to. So Jess is just here for the fun now. She's going to make her way up to the line, and what looks to be a pretty competitive time. It's going to be a 32.0, so 4th position there from Jess. So she's managing to come off the back of last week, but with a solid 2nd row there. She'll be very, very happy with that one indeed, and that's ended a pretty decent qualifying session. If you're Jake and Splinter, they'll be happy. 0.2 of a second faster than Quinn. Quinn will be feeling a bit better. He felt a bit sore after last week, and had a quick word with him, and he said that he did feel like he had the pace to win, but just got it wrong and ended up in the wall in very tricky conditions. However, as I said, we are expecting a wet race tonight, so it will change pretty dramatically. But it is Jake Warrior that takes pole position in a time of 1 minute and 31.665, 500ths of a second faster than Splinter. So it was very, very close in the end. Quinn 0.3 back. Then you've got Jess, last week's race winner. There we go. Rageman in 5th. Good time for the German driver there, with Leroy in 6th. His brother Yuri just behind him in 7th, with Kingan and Sully 8th and 9th. Newgarden rounds out a speed 10 with Leslie the Twig. Vicinio in 11th and 12th, with Bazza and Indecisive 13th and 14th, with Kaya. Thomas Nevitt, Kaya and Jacko will be rounding out the grid tonight for the 2nd round of the season here at the Kia Series as part of JACKOCAR. JACKOCAR, of course, running 2 leagues, one which you can catch on a Tuesday every night with myself, Gareth Hall, in the commentary box, and on Thursday, the Cup Series, the top tier, where you can catch Jacko
and Owen Wyatt in the comms box for that one, and there has been fireworks all throughout the season so far there, and gee, that's not quite fireworks, that is some way to dampen fireworks. That is full wet conditions, so not even intermediates it seems at the moment. You can see the standing water in the pit lane. No formation lap for these guys due to the issue with the and that's a very quick ready up there as well, but no formation up due to the current issue with the tyre temperatures, so they will all be going straight away. So as soon as we get to the grid in 13 seconds time, let's hope these guys have all set up their strategies, because they will be going to the grid and they will be heading off in just 5 seconds time. As I take a quick sip to get myself ready for this one, because we're going to go straight to the lights. Hopefully, or at least we'll wait, we'll see. How's it going to go? There we go. We are on the grid. We're getting ready. We're 2, we're 3, we're 4. Lights on. Pause. Lights off. That was a long pause, and look at the start, and it's Kingan, and I say look at the start, it's a jump start for Kingan, so Kingan getting a drive-through penalty immediately. Quinn takes the lead off of Jake and Splinter, so fantastic jump there from Quinn. He's managed to jump up ahead of Jake, who's battling out, and we can see, do we get any spinners in the back? It looks as though everyone's navigated the first few corners pretty nicely indeed, so Quinn takes the lead from Jake. Leroy moving up, and Y-Race as well. Splinter is having a shocking start, down to 7th from 2nd on the grid. Jess as well, down to 9th from 4th. So the pair of them not enjoying this at all. You can see just how much it's hurting them. Some people not in favour of the wet conditions. And Jess is really struggling to get the car up to speed. Of course, these tyres will not be up to temperature, even if they were. It's very hard conditions to start a race in. We've got a yellow flag already. We've got a pink car at the back. It's Thomas Nevitt. It's Thomas that's gone off. Has he suffered any wing damage? It looks as though he's got away with it on the left-hand side. And on the right, it looks as though we are good and free. So up ahead, we'll see what do we have from the rest of the field. Jess is now down into 10th position. Rageban in 9th. So it is all go off the start. There you go. You can see the changes in position already as Jake's now starting to look at Quinn, because Kingan leading this one away, but he will have a drive-through penalty to serve, so he will be cycling to the back. Of course, he's got 3 laps to serve it. Does he try and extend over the next 2 laps to try and get a little bit of a gap, because he's already got 1.1 seconds, so he'll be pretty gutted, because this does mean that he'll be going to the back and will need a safety car pretty much to bring him back into contention. But it will be Quinn. There you go. Into the box comes Kingan. And will we see 2-stop mandatory for everyone, unless you're on your Joker? So we do see a number of drivers into the box. Who stays out? We've got Jake staying out. And of course, if you're uninitiated, we will explain just how this works. So in JACKOCAR, it is a mandatory 2-stop race, so you must make 2 stops no matter what tyres you're on. You cannot make it under the safety car. That does not count as a mandatory stop. You can make one under the safety car, however it will not count to your 2, unless 1 race per season you can call a Joker. You can call a race where you will only make 1 pit stop, and that is for this round. I believe it is Vicinio that is making one, and I will try and find the other one as well, but because I know there is 2 and I've got it written down somewhere. But yeah, we do have 2 drivers on their Joker tonight, as Vicinio picks up a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. That's a massive penalty for Vicinio to pick up, and he's now down in 10th position with a pretty hefty penalty to his name, as Leslie's now trying to look at the back of Splinter going in towards the chicane. Will he make a lunge? He decides better off. He's going to go deep though, got his braking points a little bit off there as Jamie Bromley holds on to what is 5th position. But as you said, plenty of people have decided, as we usually do find on a wet race, to come in, get rid of the wet tyres and get rid of 1 stop very early on. There's a change of position. Vicinio getting his way past Indecisive for 9th and 10th place. So he's now up here, Brazilian now up into 9th place. Indecisive now down to 10th. Kingan, who will have served that drive-through, down to 11th place as well. So he has made a drive-through, so that's not a mandatory stop, so he will still need to make the 2 that were expected of him starting this race. So back up at the front, we've got change of position here. Is into the box comes Sully, so Sully's decided that he's going to do a lap extra. Perhaps he knew who one of his partners were in the pit lane and decided that they came in on the start of the race and he'd wait a lap longer. And you can see now Yuri starting to close in on Jake, and Jake leading this one away round, so pressure very much on Yuri because he's got a pretty hefty gap behind him, 4.9 seconds back to Rageman. So Yuri, who's made up some solid time off the start, multi-time race winner, as Lesty picks up 3 seconds, the first one to be slapped on the wrist by the stewards. As you can see, Yuri, he's got holding the drift there, very nicely done there for Yuri, as he makes his way around. Very easy to get it wrong here, especially around the likes of the second sector into turn 7, and of course turn 10 at Scene Corner as well. So you can see the rain streaming down from the clouds. It's not getting any lighter at the moment. Of course, if it does, we'd expect to see the change to intermediates, but we'll go down through the order and we'll see if anyone else is still closing in. We've still got the battle between Lesty and Splinter going on between 4th and 5th place, and of course there are the stops for you. You've got a stop for Quinn, Leroy, Sully, Newgarden, Jacko and Thomas Nevitt. Of course Thomas spinning on lap 1, which is why he's now 20 seconds off the pace, and the man raising money for charity this week looks as though he'll need a safety car if he is to close up and hopefully get that first podium race win. He will be chasing it down, I am sure. But Lesty, however, is now being joined by Bazza. So Bazza now getting himself involved in this, and Bazza, of course, I believe a 2-time race winner here in Kia, so a man no stranger to the top step of the podium. What can he do? It's been a while since we've seen Bazza on the podium here in Kia, and he'll be looking at making his way up the front as Jake extends his lead now to 2.1 seconds. Fastest lap of the race of 48.595, pulls out around about 0.6 of a second on Yuri on that last lap, as you can see everyone now starting to get into a bit of a rhythm. This is where the groove starts here. You start to follow your, you get used to the lines, you get used to the braking points, and well, it's all about consistency here. It's JACKOCAR, everyone gets points if you finish, so it's all about making sure you get your way to the flag. It's 20 points for a race win, 15 for second, and then declining as we've got a yellow flag. Who's that? Is that Virginia that's gone around? It is the Brazilian driver on his return, unfortunately going around, and again just getting on the throttle too much in frustration, and that's going to drop him most likely to the back of the field as he goes way off circuit, almost onto the super speedway circuit that we saw in the Cup Series last season. And those tyres will not going to be playing ball with him. You're going to have to basically crawl around for the next 3 or 4 corners. But he's got some work to do if he is to close back up on the rest of the field. And we'll go back up to Quinn, who's closing in on Indecisive, as Jacko is another driver who has been hit with 3 seconds very early on, lap 4 of 27. But well, we've still got plenty of racing left to go here. The second round of the season at Kia, and well, we've got stage points, so playoff points come into action here in JACKOCAR. So of course you get through the regular season. The regular season will take you through a number of races, and that was very close to Quinn there. I can imagine some choice words as he holds a slide. Indecisive does look as though he is holding Quinn up a bit here, so he's trying to find a long way around Quinn. This is dangerous unless you're going to give him room, and he does indeed. Indecisive decides to just leave him a little bit of space, but not enough space to allow the move to be made. So Quinn now losing some pretty considerable time. He's going to go around the outside. There's a little bit of contact as they trade paint from left to right wheel. But Quinn now up past Indecisive, and it's going to be Leroy now who's going to want to make the attack on Indecisive and up into 10th place. These guys have already stopped Indecisive yet to make a stop, and you can see the rain lights are flashing. It's not these guys harbouring and harvesting electricity and ERS. They are, of course, you're running in full wet, so you will have the rain light going. This should be, is Indecisive with a little bit of a snap of throttle, pulls right in front of Leroy. We're just staying on board just to see how these lines are changing and veering, because it's very easy for these guys to make a mistake. Was Leroy going to send it down the inside? He does, and I don't believe that Indecisive, that's unfortunate for Leroy there, because Indecisive definitely just turned into Leroy, who had the space and had the move. So that's unfortunately there for Leroy. He's going to drop down the order, and that's going to free up Quinn to go and battle and chase the rest of the fielders. Unfortunately, we've had a first retirement, and it is our returning Brazilian driver. Virginio's decided to call this one a night in 17th position. He's not going to be picking up points in his return to Kia, which is a shame. He, I'm sure, will be hoping to come back stronger next week, where we will be heading over to Zandvoort and heading to the home circuit of plenty of these drivers here in JACKOCAR. Nonetheless, are the likes of the Hasselagers and of Leroy and of Yuri, Yuri's still in second position, but it is still Jake leading the way with, and we'll go on board with our race leader, another fastest lapper, 48.262. Great lap there from Jake, who's starting to really amp up the pressure, amp up the speed, and it doesn't look as though Yuri's got anything to say, as that was a car parked on the outside. I believe that's Virginio's car that's just quite nicely parked on the race, or just offside the racing line, so that's not great, but the game has decided to retire him there. But what have we got? We've got Kingan within a second. We've got Jacko now closing in on Matt Roseman in 13th or 12th and 13th position. As Jacko, you can see, running the battery very, very hard down this straight, and you can just about, what's that, 84%. I don't like to look at batteries really, because it's not what a commentator should do, but I just had a peer down just to see what he's running on. But you can see he's pressuring Newgarden, but Newgarden's holding his own. These two have both made a stop, and Jacko, who will be hoping for a slightly better result than what we saw last week, where he really, in my opinion, was probably the one that should have won that race, but a spin with just a few laps left to go paid the end of that, as he, well, effectively binned it out of the lead of the race and cost himself a race win here in Kia. So work to do for Jacko. He's down in 13th. He's got Leroy now behind him. Leroy after that spin after contact with Indecisive. But we've got Jake leading from Yuri, Rageman, Splinter and Bazza, Lesty and Jess and the Kingan are the ones that are yet to stop. Of course, Indecisive as well, who's been overtaken by Quinn. So Quinn, a stop ahead of everyone. Of course, we had drivers on their jokers, and I will double check. Give me 2 seconds. I will find it as soon as possible for your second joker. Of course, the person that will only be making one pit stop tonight, and it is set to be a couple of drivers that are out there just thinking to change their strategy somewhat, because it does look as though, and there you go, as you look to the skies just to the top right hand squad, and as we go central, the sky is starting to break. The rain is definitely less intense, so these guys have stayed out, and we now see into the box, we see Sully going in. So Sully's decided he's going to pit and box for a set of tyres. Now, is this his second stop? It is his second stop, and I would imagine he's about to set on the green walled intermediate tyres. And there you go, the first one into the box to go on to the intermediates. He's gone with Indecisive as well. So Indecisive on his first stop has decided to go intermediates as well. So in fact, I'll just double check that, because I'm pretty sure that's the case. Yes, Indecisive does go medium. So this is where strategy is going to start to come into play. These guys that have already made their one stop have gone on to the wets, but they will all be, as Indecisive picks up a penalty, unfortunately extending what I imagine would be the first corner immediately after he came out of the box. But yeah, onto the intermediates goes Yuri as well. So we miss Yuri going on to intermediates. So he's now going to be, I would imagine, very, very quick indeed, because these are definitely intermediate conditions. He's going to need to come up to temperature. However, let's have a look at that delta between himself and Quinn, because it's 3.5 seconds. He's coming into a part of the lap where you will start to feel the tyres bite. And it's now down to 3.3. Into the box comes Jake, so Jake's going to go onto a set of intermediates as well. So Yuri had 3.4. That was a bit of a lag spike, my apologies, as Yuri goes a little bit deep, but that's going to cost him some time. But Jake now onto the intermediates, and this is where we're going to see those that haven't made a stop come on to the intermediates. Now, do we see it go full dry later in the race? It is interesting to see. This is what we've tended to see at France. The conditions are really playing a part, as Jacko and Newgarden are trading positions. Will they both box this lap? No, they both stay out, so they've decided to to hold on to these wet tyres a little bit longer. It does look like the intermediates are the ones that are going to be the ones to go on to, but Newgarden, Jacko and Leroy are all still on the full wet. So is this going to promote them? Of course, they've made us some of them ready to stop. This is where it's all going to filter out. We've got Bazza picking up a 3-second time penalty, and we've got those that are going to be out on the wet tyres that are going to be maybe not optimal, however they will be warm and up to speed. We're going to be those on brand new intermediates that will not be up to temperature, so they will slide around somewhat. However, they will have a little bit more bite. These wet tyres can shift 35, or the full wets can shift, I believe it's 70 litres of water per second at full speed at about 180 miles an hour. The intermediates can shift 35 litres of water per second at 180 miles an hour. Shows you how effective they are as Kingan flies past Jacko, as Jacko's going to try and come back at him going into the chicane. He doesn't want to give up any positions, but decides better off at the grip level, and the intermediates is going to be far superior to those that are still out on the full wet tyres. Jake, however, back out in the lead this one, 6.9 seconds. He's managed to extend that advantage, and you can see it's even climbing now, 7.1. My apologies, 7 seconds, 7.2. As Jake is now really trying to turn the screw in this one. Bazza closing in on Splinter, so we'll check in with them as he closes in. Of course, Bazza's sitting on that penalty as well, but Splinter, he's quick here in the try. Is he enjoying the wet as much? He, of course, started on the front row as Thomas unfortunately picks up 3 seconds. He's down in 16th position, still hoping on a safety car. As Yuri finally getting those tyres up to temperature, and there is Jacko out of the race. So what's happened to Jacko? He's down the order. We've got a full course. It is a safety car, so we've got a full safety car here on lap 8 of 27, and let's have a look. Where is it that I believe Jacko may have gone off? With a few corners left to go just before the penultimate corner. This is probably, if we see as he's just about to disappear, I would imagine, and here's me replicating what we're going to do. Here we go, coming around to the right hand side. He's just going to get a snap on and going into the wall just underneath that light board to the right hand side of the circuit. However, full safety car on lap 8 of 27. So what we will do is we'll take stock of the race. We'll go back to the top. We'll work out what's happened, and we'll work out who is in what position, because as I was getting on to a little bit earlier when I was talking about the points, so they all want to make through this regular season. So the regular season will take you through Albert Park, Paul Ricard, Zandvoort, Spa, Monte Carlo, Jeddah, Austin and Spielberg. So plenty of races left to go in this regular season. They are all hoping to make it into what we call the playoffs. So the playoffs are effectively like what you see in American sports, or of course in NASCAR, which is where the rules have expanded from. So these guys will all be hoping to make up enough points to make it into the playoffs, where they can then challenge for the Championship 5, which is 5 drivers selected from the top 4 in the championship come the end of the playoffs, and 1 lucky loser who's made their way through what is called the chase, those who did not make it into the playoffs, so finished underneath the cut line. So you'll get 1 lucky loser that will be allowed into the Championship 5, and then only 1 of those 5 people will be able to win the championship come the race in Miami on the 6th of December this year. So that is how it works. Now, points are distributed throughout the rest of the field. So as I said, 20 points for the race win, 15 and descending all the way down to 20th position. You get 0 points for DNF, 0 points for DSQ. And also, if you win in the regular season, you get 5 bonus points added to your playoff tally. So your playoff tally does not start until the playoff begins. So these points that they are currently accumulating will not come into effect until they start the playoffs, which will, I believe, start on the 8th of November at Monza. So the points are created as in a 5-point win, or 5 points for a win is a 1 point for pole position, 1 point for the fastest lap, 1 point for second, and 1 point for third. We also have the race broken up into stages, so there's 2 stages per race. So the stages for this one were on lap 7 and will be on lap 13. So lap 7, I believe, was won by Jake, so he will take home 1 playoff point. So he will be able to add that to his tally come the playoffs at the end of the regular season. It will make sense as the season goes on. If you're new, I promise you it does make sense. It makes for a fascinating way to watch league racing. It's not meant to be like any other league. We are a high brick league and we make it fun. It is revitalized the love for so many people here at JACKOCAR, and it is what everyone tunes in for, whether you're new, whether you're old, whether you're young, whether you're like me and you're in your older years and you're wanting to just enjoy yourself back on a circuit. As Lesty picks up 3 seconds under the safety car. Don't do that, as he's into the box as well, so as an extension on his way in, he's decided to come in for a set of intermediates. This is not going to be a mandatory stop for him, so although he's going to go on to a set of intermediates, Lesty will have to make, I believe, another stop, will he? Yes, he will. So sorry, it was Leroy, not Lesty. So Leroy into the box. So Leroy will have to. It is still time for changes. We've got a safety car. We've got another stage on 13, so another point will be up for grabs on lap 13. It could be under the safety car. I would imagine that the safety car will be coming in perhaps at the end of this lap if we see Thomas Devitt, who will be counting his lucky stars, because this is exactly what he needed. He needed to close in, and well, Jacko will be pretty disheartened with that retirement. Another bad end to the race for Jacko, who well, it maybe wasn't the best race tonight, but he will be starting off his season at a bit of a points deficit. So this is where strategy comes into play. It's a bit of a shorter season in Kia compared to the Cup Championship and the Cup Series, which you can find on a Thursday night. So Jacko might start to look at it long term. Does he want to be in the chase? Does he want to be one of those that finishes under the cut-off line? Because of course you go into that lucky loser league where the winner of the chase, the top points finisher of those that didn't finish in the playoffs, makes it into the Championship 5 and gives himself an outside chance of winning the championship. Now the championship in Kia was won by a chase winner just 2 seasons ago when Niels won the championship in Portugal in season 2, where he coming in as the chase winner. So it can be done. So that race was much like the same we saw today. It was a dry to wet, and unfortunately for myself and for Yuri, we were caught out with a safety car coming out on the lap that we were due to pit for the wet tyres, and unfortunately that cost us. So this time around we'll see, do people think of it long term, do people think of it short term? This time it will be Jake leading away now. He's going to have to go. He's going to have an allocated section where he can gun the throttle. Does he wait until the line? Does he go early? It's all going to be on watch your tyres, watch your tyres. He's waiting. He's going to get the green light in a second, and off he goes. And it's a good launch from Jake behind Yuri and Rageman up into 3rd position. So it's a good start for Rageman. Now up into P3. Yuri's now trying to have a look at Jake, but Jake does look as though he's got the line going into turn 1, holds on to position. Hopefully everyone makes their way through the first few corners under the safety car restart, as unfortunately it looks as though Thomas has left the session. A desync lag out there for him. Hopefully we'll be able to grab him back in, and he'll be able to get back and finish this one. As going deep there, that was Bazza trying to go around the outside of Splinter. Doesn't quite make it work, as change for position a little bit further down the order. I believe that was Kaya, and indecisive change, looking at fighting over position. Oh, his Rageman gets almost all out of shape on the exit of turn 7, but well, we're now closing in on the end of the second stage, so we're about to go on to lap 13 very shortly. Is Jake leading from Yuri, Rageman, Splinter, Kingan now up into 5th position. He gets past Bazza, who's having Quinn look to go around the outside. And can he do so? Danny Quinn, not quite. So Quinn having to hold on to 7th place there. As behind we've got cars scattering. I believe that was Newgarden in 9th position, getting it wrong there. As almost into back goes Quinn. He's definitely looking quicker than Bazza, but he doesn't want to give a little bit of a bump and run, because here we go into the 3rd sector, and this is where you can really, especially in these conditions, if you get it wrong, you can put someone spinning in the wrong direction, find yourself with a 5-second penalty. and that is where you find yourself falling down the order, especially if we see another safety car. Kingan is now closing in on Splinter, but as we go on to lap 13, across the line will come Jake, and he'll make it a second stage point, so another playoff point going the way of Jake. So he's currently picked up the 1 for pole position, he's currently got the fastest lap and the 2 stage points, and if it's currently going the way that it is, he'll be picking up 5 for the race win as well. So this would be an almost perfect race night for Jake Warrior Combs, who tries himself out in the commentary box and also in the cockpit, and well, the man from Barnsley is doing a pretty spectacular job at the moment. He looks as though he's got the pace advantage, and everyone is, oh, unfortunately, Danny down in, in 7th position, picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that will hurt him come the end of this race. He's going to want to extend and get out of the 3-second window. So we've got a battle now down between Kingan, Splinter, Bazza and Quinn, as they're all fighting over what is 4th position, as the Swedish driver chasing down Jamie Bromley. Splinter, as I will try and intersect. We've got PSM names and we've got real names. I will try and teach you them as we go on throughout the season. Hopefully, I was hoping that Codemasters would integrate us being allowed to use our real names as well as our PSN names, but alas, hopefully we'll have to wait until the next game where they'll let us change it and have our real names instead, just to make it a little bit more professional. But Kingan, as Isaac tries to close in on Splinter, Bazza and Quinn fighting out over Leroy. Jess, who had a pretty good qualifying session, will be disappointed to be down in 9th position. However, as I said, she has already progressed to the playoffs, and just another note to add to the playoffs as we talk about how the rules work. If you win a race in the regular season, you automatically qualify for the playoffs. So Jess Ball is down in 9th position. She doesn't need to worry, she has already qualified for the playoffs, as Kingan now gets down the inside of Jamie Bromley, and Splinter is relegated down to 5th position. The man that started on 2nd will not be happy at all, and we'll be hoping to close in, and the rain is now completely stopped, so I'm 100% expecting it to go dry in the next 2 laps. Now this is where we'll see who's brave, because the intermediates will start to burn out. It really is a bit of a guessing game, because the game, sometimes you could be in intermediate conditions for 40 laps, sometimes you could be in it for 1, if not 3 corners when it starts to stop raining. So it is as Quinn now makes his way past, and that's going to be a send and a half from Leroy. He's gone down the inside of Bazza, he's going to go down the inside of Quinn. The 2 speed drivers going side by side. Who's going to get the position going in towards the chicane? It looks as though side by side Bazza's still not out of the question here. It looks as though Leroy's been given the space by Quinn, and Quinn holds on to 6th position. Leroy now up into 7th. Bazza relegated down to 8th. However, he's got the run back on Leroy. He's going to get the move done. It's going to be a little bit, almost felt like there was a little bit of a tag between the pair of them as they make it. Just what a save there from Bazza, and he almost collects Leroy going in towards turn 11 as well. What a save from you can see a little bit of a lag as well from him as he's making his way around the 3rd sector, going deep as well, and that's going to open the door for the likes of Jess and Bazza really starting to struggle with a little bit of lag spiking there. So that's not very helpful for those behind, the likes of Jess, the likes of Leslie, the likes of Newgarden, that will be wanting to make a move, as Jake now really starting to put his foot down on the throttle and extend this gap out, because I'm definitely seeing this track getting drier and drier. And as I was saying, it can take half a lap and it can take an extended period of time before it actually goes too dry. It's all about who's brave and who's going to jump early. So it's a fascinating way to end this race. We're on lap 15 of 27, so still plenty of racing left to go. We've only really just gone over 50% of this one, so plenty of racing left to come in this one. The French Grand Prix is the 2nd round of the season, the Kia Series at JACKOCAR. Make sure you join us on Thursday night for the next round of the Cup Series, where the Cup Series will be racing a little bit further away from France. They will be over in Barcelona for the Catalunya Grand Prix in Spain. So will we see a redemption arc for the likes of maybe for Iceman, who had an off race? It's going to be an off race for Corey, unfortunately serving a race ban after his incident in Silverstone. We've got plenty of others. We've had, I believe, 5 winners in 5 races in Cup, so it's not a championship win or miss. You want to tune in for that one, you can join Owen Wyatt and Jack Ricketts in the commentary box. What we do want to join, however, we do want to join on board with Rageman if the game allows me. There we go. It doesn't quite allow scrolling. I don't like to flick through camera screens, so there we go. Rageman, as into the box comes Yuri. Now, I was expecting this from Yuri, but Yuri is always the bravest one on tyres. This is something that we've seen from him before. He likes to make the gamble into the box, so it's going to be a set of tyres. Will it be the softs? Will it be the mediums? Here's a set of mediums there for the Dutchman. So the reigning champion here in Kia, as Jess picks up a 5-second speeding penalty going into the pit lane. Unfortunately there for last week's race winner, she filters straight into the number 1 pit box, so not a bad pit box to be in. And it's a front wing change as well for Jess, so she's had a bit of contact. Kaya's in, we've got Leslie in, and Yuri will be the first one out. Now we will try and keep tabs on what everyone's doing, but I do want to see what. There you go. Look at the track surface. It is almost completely dry. You've got a little bit offline where it's got that shimmer, but I'm saying within a lap we're definitely going to be towards dries. And yeah, this has Yuri played his hand correctly here. It was Jake was really starting to extend, and well, it was a bit of a do or die moment for Yuri. He knew he had to do something. Will he get these tyres up to temperature enough? Of course, he's going to go around the corner. Don't want to get it wrong. Just keep it in the on the black stuff. But because not only does Yuri now have a lap to get these tyres just back into a bit of a rhythm, work out where the grip is and where it isn't. When Jake comes in, he will need to get these tyres up to temperature, which is massive on this. You can make up around about 2 to 3 seconds on people over a lap if they're getting their tyres up to temperature. So there's a lot of work to do if you're Jake. Rageman as well will be thinking about it as well. So do we see into the box our race leader? We do. So Jake's in, Rageman's in, Thomas unfortunately picks up 3 seconds, Kingan is in, Splinter has decided to make his way in casually, and equally Quinn as well. So it looks as though everyone's struggling slightly with the pick box here. Leroy's in, Bazza is, what a move there from Sully. He's decided to make use of Bazza taking the scenic route. As well, where is Yuri here? Yuri got held up by Indecisive, and is that going to cost him, because Jake is now going to be coming out of the box? But this looks like it's going to be a bit of a masterstroke for Yuri, because he's going to have warm tyres. Jake's now out of the box. In fact, does Yuri lose a position to Rageman? He does, so I'm surprised that he's lost a position there, because it looked as though it worked him. Oh, that's a cut. But he's going to have warm tyres compared to Rageman. Rageman's not going to know what the grip is, so this is all going to be, can Yuri put the pressure on? And this lap, because you can, as I said, you can make up 2-3 seconds on those that are warming their tyres up. Yuri's got to make the move. He's going to have an opportunity down the Mistral Straight into the chicane, and Jake, it looks as though he's maintained a 2.7 second advantage. Now, does this change now that we're going to dry? Does Jake hold on to this pace that he's had? Yuri on the battery, on the button, and push to pass allows the Dutchman through and up into second position. Rageman does not want to give back, but well, he's going to have to hold on to third, which would be a pretty solid result for the German driver, who had a bit of a shocker last week. Didn't manage to make it around 2 corners in Australia. Yuri now 2.5 seconds on Jake, but Jake, you've got to think by the end of this lap will have got those tyres up to temperature. So looks as though it's all gone to plan for Jake. He is going to be leading this one with 17 laps completed of 27. You are watching the JACKOCAR Kia series. It is the second round of the season. Myself, Gareth Hall, in the commentary box for this one. Make sure, if you'd like to follow me on socials, you can do that by going to @GT2_driving on Twitter. You can find out more about JACKOCAR by going to @JACKOCAR for the main account, and of course @JACKOCAR2 for everything you need to find out about Kia. As Yuri, fastest lap of the race, at 35.628, but however he did lose 0.3 of a second to Jake, and Jake now starting to get into the rhythm. It's been Jake's race, and you can't take it away from him. Pole position, fastest lap on the wets, and of course 2 stage points as well. Does he manage to take the fastest lap in this one? As we'll go back down and we'll see, as you can see, Lesty and Baz are changing positions a little bit further, and we're side by side multiple times there. So the pair of them aren't going to give up a position. Lesty bails out of that at last minute, but we will see DRS be activated very shortly, I'd imagine, which will give those within a 1 second winner the opportunity of a speed boost going down the 2 DRS zones. Of course, the one down the Mistral straight towards turn 8 chicane, and of course the main straight on the exit of turn 15 to turn 1. We've got a yellow for a slow car. Is that Kaya? I believe it is. So Kaya going slow. That's going to allow Thomas Nevitt to close up as well. So Newgard and Jess swapping positions over 11th and 12th. These guys all fighting over points. Of course, points all the way down through the field. So plenty to fight for, no matter where you are finishing. And if that is the Gamebridge Honda, I do like it, that livery there. As we've got another yellow, and that's Kaya, I believe, as well, that's gone off again. Unfortunately, Kaya, it's been a bit of a shocking week for Kaya. Didn't have the best of it in the race in Australia. Unfortunately, caused havoc in Silverstone for the cup drivers, and here in France, he's now found himself at the back with. It looks as though he's got away without any wing damage, but now 10 seconds off the back of Thomas's in 15th position. However, still picking up points. Back to the front of this, we've got Yuri now back behind Rageman. So Rageman's got back up ahead past Yuri, so a little bit of work to do for Yuri as he's now back on the German driver, is closing in. He's got a lap extra, but it's not really going to make too much difference. However, he should be getting DRS, and he's going to have the opportunity of a bit of a slipstream. He's deciding to use against battery because he's going to get a tow, and the lift there. He's thinking about long term here. Now this is where you've got to think about working together. Jake is sitting in the lead on his own, 3 seconds up the road of everyone else. He is punching the hole through the air on his own, really just having the cars having to fight against effectively gravity and how airflow works. Rageman is currently dragging Yuri along. Now, if these two work together, if they sit in each other's slipstream, if they overtake as and when they need to, they will be able to close up to Jake, because the slipstream effect, if they allow them each other to slipstream, they'll be able to pull each other along. So, do we see a mini team up between the German and the Dutchman? It is interesting to find out, because Jake now 2.9 seconds as Yuri goes a little bit deep into the final corner, but he will have the opportunity once again of sitting in the slipstream. So Jake with the fastest lap of 35 flat. However, that time still sitting at 3 seconds, so he's not making up any time. These guys are working, and we'll see as Leroy a 34.7, so 0.3 of a second faster than Jake, and Leroy now in 5th position. So it's probably just out of reach for Leroy as Splinter and Quinn swap positions over 6th and 7th Splinter. After that, it's a pretty stellar run in qualifying, falling down the order as Bazza and Lesty are trading places once again, as around the outside goes Lesty, and unfortunately that's not going to work. Jess, however, is going to think about a move, but she thinks better of it, and as Leslie picks up another 3 seconds, that's going to add to his tally, and what I'll do is I'll just show you all the penalties. So you've got 3 seconds for Rageman, 3 for King, and 3 for Leroy, Quinn, Bazza, and then indecisive 6 for Thomas, 5 for Jess, and 9 for Leslie, and Leslie picking up more penalties as Kaya picks up 3, his first penalty of the day. Jess doesn't need, as we said, Jess doesn't need to really fight these guys. She's just doing this for the fun of it, really. But as you can see, going around the outside goes Lesty around Bazza. However, one thing I want to see from Jess, and I know she watches these back, so I'd like to see Jess get her elbows out a little bit more. I said it in Australia last week, I'd like her just to think about this, as she's already qualified for the playoffs. There is no reason you cannot go out there and just work your hardest. Learn to find, maybe put the pressure on these guys up ahead. Don't sit back and let them make the mistakes. Really go on the offensive and make them work for their position. And she's sitting behind the battle between Bazza and Lesty. And this is where you just got to find your moment, find the opportunity, because these two will be effectively paying attention to each other. So Jess should be looking at the opportunity of when one of them makes a lunge at the other. You can see down the outside as she has to get off the throttle a little bit there, as this is where you think about it. Maybe just a lunge into that final corner. She's going to go a little bit deep, but well, she's going to get a little bit of a battery help down the main straight, but the pair of them up at front are really going to be holding each other up, because Newgarden's sitting in this as well, and Newgarden is going to be sitting just behind. But
really it's Jess and Nugan that are being held up as we've got a yellow flag. Is that for Leroy again? I believe it is. So Leroy, another spin, exactly the same corner for Leroy, and that's a real shame for him. He was looking pretty quick in the late stages of this one. Lap 21 of 27. We'll go back down to the battle. We'll know Yuri's still sitting in the wheel tracks of Rageman, but it's now 3.8 seconds out to Jake. So Jake looking as though he's on his way to the flag. Bazza now cruising up to the back of Lesty. These two have pretty much changed position twice a lap, every lap for the last 3 laps. Will we see it again? Round the outside goes Bazza. He's going to cut in very nicely indeed for Bazza, and he takes back 9th position. Lesty in 10th, Jess in 11th, and Newgarden still looking at a top 10 position because he just needs to get past Jess and Lesty. But you can see Lesty not giving up on Bazza. They're going to go side by side through a very, very difficult corner. Jess has got a pretty much the grand prize view of this one as she sits front row for what has been a pretty good battle between the pair of them. But all they have done is cost themselves time, because that's 6.2 seconds behind Sully. So they kind of want to figure it out between them, because although they're fighting over the top 10 positions, they are losing out the opportunity of perhaps catching the likes of Sully and Leroy if there are any more penalties to be added. But great battle to enjoy between Bazza and Lesty. Jess is now got Newgarden, and Matt Roseman is looking much racier, and another one for Matt. He's sitting there without a penalty, so effectively he's got all 3 of these guys. If he gets to the flag, he just needs to sit here and get past and he'd pass them when post race penalties are applied. As there we go, Bazza, there we go, 3-second penalty. So these guys all fighting between themselves. They're maybe cutting it a little bit fine when it comes to track extensions and track limits. And that's what you find, as Bazza, however, has got an 0.8 of a second advantage over Lesty. And now Jess is looking much closer to Lesty, and she's going to have the opportunity of going down, perhaps getting the DRS, but Lesty himself with DRS will close up, and there's not room to make a lunge. He's going to have to sit behind, and Jess once again caught in this DRS train between 9th and 12th position. So plenty of work for these guys to do. Yellow in sector 3. Is that for Quinn? I believe it is. Oh, he's gone around. Quinn's around, and that's down to 7th position, and Leroy is now past him. Sully is coming up to the back of him. So the 3 speed drivers in 6th, 7th and 8th position now line astern, and have all had their own separate issues in this one, all running of course that sky blue electric blue, around that sort of colour, speed blue, and well, if you're Quinn, I'm sure he's going to be pretty unhappy with that. He was looking like a solid top 5 was on the cards. Up ahead, we've got Jake, who is just, and we'll go on board with him. We know that we've still got that battle down down the order, but we'll just go on board with your race leader just to work out how this man is extending lap upon lap upon lap, and well, he is doing a pretty remarkable job. He's been consistent in the wet. He's been consistent in the dry. There's a 5-second advantage plus the 3 seconds for Rageman. Means that he's pretty much untouchable. Given he keeps it on the black stuff within the 2 white lines. He's not made any mistakes so far tonight, and Jake is on for another race win. It's something that he's picked up pretty much consistently. He was looking as though he was the man to beat last season. It didn't go his way in the Championship 5. However, Jake will be very, very much the one to watch when it comes to the Championship at the end of this one. You've got to think that Jake has got a very, very good chance of getting himself back in the Championship 5 and back in the hunt of a solid championship push once again. He is actually, I'm just having a quick look at our stats that have been supplied very nicely indeed by Mr. Jack Rickers himself. 5 wins in Kia for Jake Warrior, which means he is second all time, I believe, in race wins in Kia, only second behind Yuri, who sits on 7. So it shows that he's got the pedigree at this level.
Down the order, it looks as though we've got that battle still going on between these four. They're not giving up. We're on lap 24 of 27, so not too much left to go, and we've now got 4 cars all battling over position. Jess hasn't quite got the impetus to, if the DRS is just helping out Lesty somewhat as he's closing in. He's going to go very, very deep, and that is going to open the door for Jess. This is where she's got to come up with the goods and making a lunge, because she's going to have a run on Lesty, but she's not quite got the pace to go down the in towards the likes of turn 4 and turn 5 as Lesty picks up another 3 seconds. That's 12 seconds for him, so that's going to call curtains on any opportunity of fighting these guys. Jess is, however, is going to get the run. She's going to get a little bit of snap of oversteer here, I'd imagine. She went slightly deep, no, very nicely deep, as the car gripped up with the lateral movement through the corner, even though there was pretty lateral G moving. Lesty moves to the inside to block it. Jess is going to say, thank you very much, I'll take the racing line, go around the outside, and makes her way up into 10th position. Lesty down into 11th. Newgarden now goes on the offensive, and there we go, should have the run on the outside. Almost trading paint there, as the yellow would have been traded from Pirelli to Pirelli. Down the inside will go Newgarden. He'll have the line. Lesty's going to try and think about a cutback. It's going to be a bold move if he thinks about it there, because you don't tend to see too many sends unless you're alongside going into turn 11, and he's now found himself, having been 9th position just 5 laps ago, he's now down in 12th place with 12 seconds penalties, which is currently puts him fine for Indecisive, who's himself got 3 seconds. Lap 25 of 27 of the second round of the season, the Kia series of JACKOCAR. Myself, Gareth Hall, in the commentary box, bringing you the final laps of action here from the circuit pool card at Le Castellet, as Quinn picks up another 3 seconds to make it 6 seconds, which is going to demote him behind his speed stablemate Sully, as Sully sitting there at the moment pretty happy in 8th position. He's not under threat from Bazza behind, who's got 11 seconds, and that battling between the the battle that's gone on between these guys has cost them 7 seconds in the last few laps. So Jess is now the one that's going to go on the offensive. Jake's lead, 3.9 seconds. Rageman with a 3-second penalty. However, Yuri just doesn't have the pace tonight. It's not going Yuri's way. 3.6 seconds behind Rageman, so he needs to break down that 5/10th window if he is to get second in this one and get an extra few points in the championship. It's only an extra 1 point, but all points matter come the end of the season. Jess is now within shot of making a move on Bazza. She's got a 1 second advantage when it comes to penalties at the end of the race, so she can sit here if she wants to. However, you probably don't want to, because you want to make sure that you've got an opportune moment there. Bazza's going to put himself offline for this corner, but Jess takes a different run through turn 11 that pretty much evens out the pace of both cars. Takes a slightly wider run into turn 12, probably one of the hardest corners on the circuit, I'd say. Turn 12, very easy to get on the inside curb and turn the car around. Bazza, however, doing all he can to hold on to this P10, oh P9, my apologies, and Jess P10. However, these guys, well, they've been having fun, haven't they? They've been out doing exactly what they need to do. Jess, of course, has already qualified for the playoffs. She doesn't need to worry about too much of this battle. She's just out there trying to rack up some extra points for this championship, as she goes off slightly wide, and that's going to open the door for Newgarden. Does he think about a lunge going down the inside or the outside? He's going to think better of it. He'll have the opportunity of a bit of DRS, but we're on the penultimate lap of this one, lap 26 of 27 here at the Circuit Paul Ricard. And it's been the Jake Warrior show tonight, hasn't it? He has been absolutely superb, and we're going to run out of superlatives to say about how he has been so far. Speedway racer Yuri, he's just not had it tonight, as Jess now making the move on Bazza. So she did get the DRS, and she did manage to get the move. Is she going to think about it? That's where you've got to send it, Jess. You've got to commit to the move. You had the inside and you had the overspeed, as she's thought better of it. So Jess in holding on to 10th position. Newgarden, he's going to want the position, and he's not going to worry too much, because he knows Jess has already qualified for the playoffs, so he will want her points. So it's not going to stop him trying to get this one. But we will go on board with our race there, and it's been a quiet race. This is almost like watching a Max Verstappen race, isn't it, this season, where he's not really on board. We've got someone off at the final corner. Is that Kai? I believe it might be Kai. It is Kai, unfortunately. So Kai is slow to get started. Oh, he's off circuit, so he's going to get an exceeding limit and going very slowly. He's going to get disqualified if he's not careful. Just drive back on circuit, Kaya. Stay off the racing line. You don't have to stop. Kaya making his way back on, still slow, unless you're trying to go a lap down, in which that's quite dangerous. But however, Jake, with a few corners left to go, he's just got a few sectors in this one. Yeah, he's not been on screen much, and that says all you need to know about what he's been like in this race. He has dominated from pole position. He's about to go lights to lights, and well, you can't say too much more about how fantastic he has been. And the man from Barnsley is looking to rubber stamp a much more impressive start than we saw. I believe he missed last week. Maybe I'm mistaken. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I believe he didn't miss last week. He had the opportunity of winning and unfortunately ended up in the wall. That's what it was. So there we go. Has the opportunity of winning. Second time around, he's going to grab it with both hands, and there you go. Final corner for Jake Warrior, and this has been a canter, isn't it? He doesn't need to accelerate. Full yellows are out, but well, he's just going to cruise to the flag, and here we go. Under his own steam, he's just going to get there. Does he? He does indeed, and I believe is that 0.4 of a second. Did Jake Warrior just run out of fuel in the final corner? I believe he did. There is no reason that Yuri would have closed up, so I believe Yuri, who took Rageman, managed to close in the gap, managed to overtake him. So Yuri managed to make up the 2 seconds, unless Rageman picked up an extra penalty. I'll double check at the end of this race. Sully in the 7th, Sweet Queen. Once again, it's a chaotic end, and I do apologise. I'm looking all over the place to try and work out who's going to finish where. As we've got Bazza, Jess, Lesty are going to finish, and it must have been an issue for Newgarden because he's going to finish down the order as well. So he was fighting with Jess, so he's now down in 12th position. So unfortunately for Matt, he's down there in 12th. Nothing he can do about that one. However, he does overtake Lesty with those mammoth set of penalties. Indecisive is going to come in 13th. Thomas, unfortunately, just wasn't his race tonight, and they're running the special cancer livery, the Beeson cancer charity in the west of Scotland. He's going to take this one as Kaya, I believe, he's on full battery. Take the battery off this, but I believe it might be that he's also run out of fuel. Oh, he's got a puncture as well. So he's trying to look at his steering wheel and not at the left side. So it's a full puncture for Kaya. Another messy end for Ayati Kaya 19 in this one. Unfortunately, not what he wanted, and that's down to not even down to the carcass. That's down to the rim. So it's not going to be wanting to point in the right direction at all. He's going to come and finish the race a pretty comfortable margin behind everyone else. Unfortunately for Kaya, who was hoping that he'd manage to be semi-competitive in this one, but here we go across the line, and he ends the final lap and the final finisher here in France in what is effectively been a walk to the flag for Jake Warrior until the final moments. Where did he run out of fuel? I'm sure we'll find out very, very shortly. The gap was 3.8 seconds. He came across the line 0.4 of a second gap to Yuri. So Yuri at the end almost snuck the victory. It would have been something unbelievable if we'd seen it come to fruition like that, if Jake had just about missed it. But well, Jury will unfortunately not be happy with that one at all, because it was looking at a race that was kind of falling away from him. But there we go, Thomas Nevitt, £270 to charity. So he's just come in, and what a fantastic result, regardless of the position he finished in. What a fantastic result, and fantastic there running for the Beaton Cancer Charity in the west of Scotland. Very, very worthy charity, and I'm sure one that's very close to Thomas's heart. And yeah, fantastic, and I'm sure they'll be absolutely delighted no matter how much. And if any of you can help support, please do, and get in touch with Thomas indeed. I'm sure he'll be able to point you in the right directions. However, back to the top of this one. Pole, fastest lap, and the win. Jake Warrior, he takes the win in 47 minutes 59 seconds ahead of Yuri in second position. Rageman, best result in third. Kingan, Splinter, Leroy, Sully, Speedquin, Jess and Bazza are your top 10, with Newgarden, Lesty, Indecisive, Thomas, Kaya, and unfortunately we lost Jacko and Virginio earlier on in this one on his return to the league, and thus ending another another fantastic race here. We've had two pretty solid starts to this one, haven't we, here in Kia? So plenty to sink your teeth into. Make sure you go back and watch last week's race, and of course you can tune into this one all over again. Make sure you do the good stuff you do on the YouTube channel by going. Make sure you're subscribed. Press the red button below. Of course, like the video. We always do appreciate it. It really does help us out getting the video promoted to new viewers and more people watching the stream. I always like to set myself a limit, or a limit. I don't want to set myself a limit. I want to set myself a goal. I'd love to get 10 likes on the video. It really does help us out. So make sure you do all that good stuff by going over to the channel. Subscribe if you're not already for more frenetic, crazy JACKOCAR action. We'll be back on Thursday for the Cup Series, where we will be over to the Circuit Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix, as the Cup Series are well into their championship and well into what is shaping up to be a currently pretty tasty one indeed. We've already had 5 winners in 5 races. We've got the likes of Esti Mats in 6th position in the championship, however, looking as though he's wanting to break that wind duck that he has been waiting on for season upon season upon season. In the rest of the playoffs, we've got the likes of myself, Kieran Spears, Jess Balls up there. So Jess, race winner here last week, she's also in 9th position in the championship on a Thursday night, and ERT Jordan making out the current playoff places just outside OKK. Pete Knighton, Yuri, Ben Harrett, Leroy, Connor, Mike Kelterboard, Sullivan, Corey and Tish Peastock making it a pretty tasty top 20. It can go anywhere on Thursday, so make sure you join Jacko and Owen White in the commentary box for that one. But of course, for tonight and for this week, thank you very much for joining myself, Gareth Hall, in the commentary box. Make sure you check out JACKOCAR by going to @JACKOCAR on Twitter, @JACKOCAR2 for all about the Kia series, and find me on Twitter @GT2_driving. I will be back in the commentary box next week here in Kia as we head over to the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, and plenty of I'm sure interesting racing around the circuit that doesn't promote overtaking. However, you tend to find elbows get put out. There's a little bit of trading paint. It gets hot, it gets feisty. That's what we love to see here at JACKOCAR. But thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back next week. Have a very good week indeed, and I'll see you soon.